So the purpose of our call today is to talk a bit about the regional roundtables and the questions that may have come up then, and review some of or demo some of the changes that our wonderful cataloging committee members demonstrated at each location. I regret that I wasn't able to be there. I had to go out of town unexpectedly, and so they did an awesome job of meeting with you all in an area that's closer to you, and so we appreciate them for taking charge of those and leading the sessions and presenting everything, which they were going to do anyway, but I felt bad that I wasn't there to help support them. But they did an awesome job, and thank you to you all for coming out if you were able to. For those who are listening to this recording and were not able to, we understand how busy you guys get. So that's why we wanted to have an online session to talk about some of the same things that we talked about at the in-person sessions. And as I mentioned, do a little demo. I do have as I hope you all can see, I do have a setup with Zool on the left. Of course, that's 3.1, and then the WebStaff client on the right with the 3.3 next database. And I'm logged in as a cataloger so that, as we do any kind of demo, then, I'm working just like a BIB cataloger would be working. So I should only be able to do all the usual things. So before we get started with demo, I wanted to ask the cataloging committee members if there was anything in particular they wanted to say about the cataloging roundtables, or anything they want me to be sure to talk about. I am going through kind of looking at the slides that you all created, and going to attempt to demo most of that stuff. But anything y'all want to talk about first? Okay. Well, we'll get started. All right. So the first thing that we want to remind everybody about is that our upgrade to 3.3 is October 28th and expected to continue into the 29th. That means that, Evergreen will be down, and so everyone will be operating in offline mode for that period of time until we get the word from Mobius and pass the word to you all that we are back live again, and that you can log back in and upload your transactions. Johnny is leading the upgrade, so he's dealing with all of the main stuff with that. Here we're mostly focusing on the cataloging aspects, since we've been using Zool and will no longer have access to Zool. That was a question that did come up in one of the roundtables, whether staff will still be able to access Zool. And, the software, if it's loaded on your computer, will still be there, but you will no longer be able to access the production database, because Zool is just the tool to access it. And because the Zool version only goes up to 3.1, there is no Zool software for 3.3. So Zool will no longer function. The only way to access the production data once it's moved, or the data doesn't move really. It's just the software gets upgraded to 3.3. So I think, the terminology we use is loose sometimes, and so that has caused some confusion. All the data that exists, that includes reports that have been created, report templates, buckets, even all of the templates, like item templates, they will still exist. All of that data, nothing's going to happen to that data. It all still exists. The question and the difficulty that we've run into, say, with item templates is that the code has changed. And so sometimes there can be disconnects there. So the good news with reports is that there was, and currently is in 3.1, an issue with trying to use a report template that was created in Zool. And, if you try to use it in the web staff client, you get either wonky data or no data, or you get an error. And so the code to fix that bug has already been created, and that has been updated in 3.3 version 3.3.4, which is what we're going to upgrade to. So all the reports that we have, all the report templates will still exist, and for the most part, they will work. There may still be a few hiccups with, it gets really complicated in terms of the joins that were used, and some of that could be affected. I've read the bug, and it, like I say, it does get a little deep in the developer speak, but it could be that there are a few hiccups there, but not too many. So. And we will work to address those if they come up for folks. So anyway, I just wanted to be clear that all the data that we have in our current production database is not going anywhere. All that data exists. All that data, for the most part, will be accessible, similar to the way it was before, but again, there are going to be some changes to the way you access it in the web staff client and the way it looks versus the Zool client. So hope that answered some questions that folks had in their mind. All right. So as they had in their slides, goodbye Zool. So that means that you will be using the web staff client for everything. That's where you'll catalog, that's where you'll do all your work. And again, this is a change for folks, but there are some great perks that come with that change. A lot of the things that the developers are doing using the Angular code that they're developing in now is able to do a lot more than kind of applying the old code onto the web. So, kudos to all the developers for really, really working hard to make Evergreen really function well in the web. So one of those great things is baskets, and you can see I have my little basket here, and we're going to talk a little bit about how that works. One of the things that you use baskets or lists for maybe to put things in a bucket. So bib catalogers may be looking to merge items. So let's take a look in Zool for some good old Harry Potter. Let's exclude electronic resources and search all of NC Cardinal. And I'll start that. And then in next, we're going to do the same search, and I'll show you the difference in how some of that's going to look. So as we're looking at this and we see, oh, look, we've got a couple of DVDs of Harry Potter, A History of Magic. Now, of course, normally I'd want to take a close look at these and see whether I really want to merge them, but we're not going to actually do that today. We just want to look at what what we'd have to do in order to get them into a bucket. So I have to, in Zool, actually go into the record itself and go to Add to Bucket. And then it's going to pop up and ask me, add to a bucket. And I'm going to create a new bucket for this and add it. So then the only way that I can add other things to the bucket is either to go back to my search results and go to the next item or hit next. And if everything's not listed in order, so let's say I found 7 of these, but they're spread out over, 450 items, then I'd have to, hit next an awful lot to be able to add them all to the bucket. But I'm just going to do 2 right now for our demo. But so I have to go in again and select my bucket and add it to my bucket. So if I go over here to the web staff client and scroll down to find those same 2 items, all I have to do is click the little box next to them and they're automatically added to my basket. I didn't have to do anything else, which is pretty cool. And the other thing I can do, I can do, lots of things with the basket, but if I want to add them to a bucket, then I just have to click Add Basket to Bucket. I can just keep adding things to the basket, and then when I'm ready, I add it. So that's pretty nice. So I know that people have a lot of trepidation about this type of change, and it can be a little scary, and things can look different and work differently, but sometimes working differently is awesome. So did anybody have any questions about buckets? Let's see. What is the title of my bucket? I just created a new one, Pat, called a demo. But buckets are assigned by username, and so the only way you can access my bucket, which you're welcome to do, is to have the number. So if I go, and y'all have to forgive me because there we go, because things have moved and I'm not as familiar as I would like to be and will be, but so yeah, so it gives me my list of buckets, and I would need to know the number. Let's see. Where's my bucket number? Oh, there it is. Okay. So it's, this is my bucket number. So if you want to mess with it, you are welcome to. Where is the title on the screen? So when I was creating it, let's see. Let me go back. So if I go back to my basket, they're still in there until I take them out. I can uncheck them if I want to take them out. But if I want to add them to a new bucket, I can do that. So if I'm creating, is this the part you're asking about, Pat? If I'm creating a new bucket, I would just add it in here. So a demo 2 and add it. And then if I were looking for an existing bucket, the only one I have is this one. So I could also add it. Of course, if I add it, it won't do anything because they're already in there. But I can add them to a different bucket. Yeah, so it wouldn't have the title. Yeah, so as Wanangwa mentioned, if you go to record buckets, see, I didn't have any buckets before this, so it's only going to show me my little list of 2. So, Sharon, is there a booklet for the changes? No, not as such. We will be posting the slides that the cataloging committee created, and there is a list that's already posted in the knowledge book of the new features and the list of bugs that have been fixed. And so what those are, it's not been possible with, the time that we have to really create something that shows all of the changes and what they used to look like and what they look like now. We will have the upgraded, or rather the new documentation, and of course we're keeping all of our best practices, which are more kind of what you do, not how you do it, and the how you do it will be in the documentation. So that information will still be there. And of course, we'll still be working to enhance that and answer questions. So I don't know, did that help? Did anybody have any other questions about baskets or buckets?
One thing I will say about, sorry, April, I don't.
Go ahead.
One thing I will say about baskets is you have to be very attentive because it does not empty itself naturally. You have to take action to empty the basket. So
yes.
even when you go to merge a record, you still have to go back and empty the basket yourself. Or if you're placing holds for everything that's in the basket for a patron, you have to actively check a box that says clear the basket after I place my hold. Things like even if you migrate, if you move away and close that catalog search and open another one, they're still in your basket from that old catalog search. So
right.
You really have to pay attention to when your basket's empty and when it's not.
Yeah, so I hit search the catalog again, and you can see my basket still has those two things in it. So thank you, Jonathan. That's a really good point. So I'm going to have to go in and uncheck them. And then if I refresh my screen.
Jessica and I also found at the Western Roundtable that the basket seems to go off of Workstation. So we would log out and log in as another user, and there would still be an item in the basket.
Yeah, April, unchecking it there, just all it does is says, I don't want to take this action with these items.
Gotcha. So you have to actually go.
Choose remove from basket, yeah.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yep.
Oh, you can also, I saw that clear basket when action complete. So
Right. That should be an option with any, except for putting them in the bucket, I think.
That doesn't clear it.
That doesn't clear it. But any other, if you go to print it, if you go to email it, if you go to place holds, that it should give you that checkbox option to clear it once the action has been taken.
Okay, good. So if you were putting things in a basket to place holds for a patron and you check that box, then it should clear it automatically. Good.
And also, patrons have access to baskets too. So patrons can do everything staff can do with baskets except put it in a bucket.
Yes. Yeah, it takes the place sort of lists, although you still can create lists from baskets. But, that's kind of, it takes over that function of where you had to add it to a list, and makes it much quicker.
Nice. So if you're doing a huge, long list, it's access basket. Put it on hold for them.
Yeah, and Will and Wanangwa made the point that when you add something to a bucket, of course, you have to remove them from the bucket after you merge them because they don't just automatically disappear. So, it's similar to that. All right, that's great. Anybody else questions or comments or thoughts about baskets? If circulators aren't as aware of this, I think that this is something that, Johnny definitely talked about with the circulation webinar, but, this is something that is really helpful. Another thing that was the cataloging committee members talked about in the regional roundtables is viewing records and how that looks. So if we're taking a look at at our Harry Potter, let's just look at this DVD. So if we wanted to see the holdings, we'd have to go to Actions and go to Holdings Maintenance. And, we'd see the holdings here. I can scroll down. You can show volumes, show items, hide empty libs, and refresh. So all of that is contained in the tab setup. And of course, if I want to see maybe the holds on this record, I have to, again, go to the Actions menu, the drop down, and view holds. When you're looking at something in the web staff client, you have, you can see them here, all these awesome tabs. And I guess I'll do my search again. So if I go to this bib record, then I'm going to see all of the things, not all of the things necessarily, but a lot of the things that I might want to access, like viewing the holds, viewing the holdings maintenance, the mark record, mark view, or mark edit. Those are all tabs now. So mark edit, mark view, view holds, monograph parts, holdings view, and conjoined items, which most libraries aren't using, but it's there. And one of the recommendations that the cataloging committee had is that you might want to set your default view to the holdings view, since if you're adding a lot of items, or this may be something that item catalogers particularly want to do because they're adding items. So you can click Set Default View, and then the holdings view is your default. Or if you're a bib cataloger and you mostly want to look at records in Mark Edit, then you can set that as your default view. And you can change it very, very easily. So you used to have to pull up the view and then, reset the display or set bottom interface as default. And so it's a little bit more responsive in the web this way. And of course, if you want to go back and set it as OPAC view, again, all you have to do is click. So that's very handy. One thing that they also mentioned is if you're opening multiple records, then you need to enable pop-up windows. And we do have in best practices the information about how to disable the pop-up blocker. And so you go into your 3 dots, settings, and when you click on that, you get this page. And you go to, let's see, I'll have to look now at the pop-up blockers. Well, it's somewhere in here. The other thing they mentioned, which I'll mention just because I'm here, is that if you're going to be in the Mark Editor a lot and the spell check, the little red lines are really annoying, you can turn off your spell check here. And so that is handy. Oh, I might be...
It is good to remember, though, that stays unchecked. So if you go to another website where you would like to have it, you have to go to that.
Right. That is for sure. So let's see. I'm going to have to look and see where the content settings are and add that.
I think it's under site settings, under privacy and security.
Ah, gotcha. Thank you.
And then if you scroll down, you've got pop-ups and redirect. But I'm not sure on that because on mine it's looking like it's blocked.
Oh, there. Yeah.
No, I have blocks turned off. Okay, so yeah, that's where it is. You have to,
yeah,
it'll automatically, I don't know. You have to like change it from blocked to allowed, I think, or something.
Yeah. So if you turn off blocked, or you just add, obviously I have a bunch of allows because I log in at different locations, but mostly because you're going to be logging into one location. So if you allow that, if you work at Bladen and you put in allow Bladen, then it should work all the time, and you don't have to necessarily, turn off block pop-ups for everything. So you can just make sure that the ones you log into are allowed. Thank you, Anangwa. I was having trouble finding it. And I think they must have changed site settings from content settings. So I'll have to update the image and the information in our knowledge book. All right. So when we go back to the catalog, one thing that you may notice as you are working is there are some name changes. So one of the things we touched on already was what used to be called Holdings Maintenance is now called Holdings View. Also, just about, although this says available copies, just about everywhere else in the web staff client or the cataloging functions, you will see that instead of the word copies, it uses the word item. So let's just look here. So you can see on Zool where it says, current copy. Here it says item number, and instead of volume, it uses call number. So you won't see as many references, or maybe very few references, to volume and copy and everything. For consistency's sake, they're trying to use the same terminology to refer to the same thing. So that's why the community resolved to use call number instead of volume and item instead of copy. So the developers are working to get that updated. So that is a language change that you will see. Another thing that the cataloging committee members talked about is the difference in the holdings maintenance screen and the holdings view screen. So you can see that where holdings maintenance shows you the brand and then indents for the volume and then indents again for the item that's attached to that volume or call number. Here, it's a little harder to tell. So when I look down here, I can see the system and I can see the branch that owns it, but there's nothing that indicates to me that I can see, and you guys chime in if there's something that you know about, that indicates to me that, obviously it says that these are owned by the same branch and the call number is the same, but it doesn't give you the same kind of indication that they are attached to the same volume. So I don't know that impacts, or in what way that impacts your work, but it is just a visual change. So if cataloging committee members have any comment on that.
Yes, actually, this is Will.
Hey, Will.
Hey, it's still not ideal because it won't show you the the barcodes for them and all. But if you uncheck the box that says Show Item Detail, it'll tell you how many items there are for that volume.
Oh, okay, great.
But like I said, it still won't tell you which barcodes belong to that volume. But I guess it's better than nothing.
Right. And then when you check
And
that
then
again, you see the two barcodes, and then you know that they are on the same volume call number.
Yeah, and that unchecked show item detail, it can be really useful when there's a lot of copies for your
Yes.
on a record, because if all those are checked, there's going to be an individual line for every single item, and it can get really long. The screen can get really long. So sometimes it's easier to see the state of your holdings without that.
Right.
And it's also good to remember that to note that those check boxes for show item detail, show call number, those are sticky. So however if you leave them checked or unchecked, they will stay that way until you change it again.
Right. And for the most part, of course, you all will be looking at your system and not at the entire consortium. So so hopefully it won't be as long. You can also, as with any of the pages, change the number of rows that you see. So, if you want to, if it is going in, the 2 pages because you have a lot of branches that have holdings, then you can change the number of rows you see on one page, if that's helpful.
We also found that the library branches with items will go to the top. So if you switch an item from one branch to another, it will change its position on the screen.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, because I guess, normally it might be in alphabetical order, but since Harmony doesn't have anything, Statesville floats to the top. So, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's like alphabetical of the ones that have items, and then it goes alphabetical with the ones that don't.
Pat, your question about parts. Parts are associated with the item, not the volume. So it would be the item itself that has parts attached.
And I think parts is something you can add as a column to that view using your column picker.
Oh, yes, most likely. Yeah. I haven't played with the view at all.
Right. Yeah. If that's something you'd like to see in holdings view, I think you can add parts as a column. Right.
And then let's see. Okay, Pat said that if she's trying to move items and volumes to another record, the call number changes. Pat, that may be the case if you accidentally move an item into a different volume, but if you move to a different record, it should, if I'm not mistaken, bring the items that are attached to that volume. And I don't do this all the time, so you guys correct me. Correct. But
so if all you're moving is an item, if all you're moving is an item, it'll have to go to an already existing in Zool volume or call number. And if that call number is different than the one it's coming from, then it'll change once it's transferred. If you're moving the whole volume or call number itself, then that'll have to go onto a branch in the hierarchy structure.
Right, and it will bring the items attached already with it, won't it? Okay.
Volume, yes.
Yes. Okay. Sure. Pat has an example, so let's take a look at that. Pat, what was the part that you were looking at? So these are the part names here, and the call number. Yeah, the left screen is the Zool view. Now you may possibly have more. Well, you shouldn't have any more tabs. I don't think. But this is the OPAC view. I can look at holdings maintenance. So yeah, if we're looking at Cumberland's holdings, I'll change that. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so this is holdings, the holdings maintenance and holdings view screen. And so the call number is there. Let me drag it. Okay. Well, because my screens are narrow, so I can show them side by side. So, yeah, so you can see there is a difference in the way that they're displayed. Although, of course, the screen is responsive. I grabbed the wrong screen. The screen is responsive to sizing. And so, yeah, it's kind of what we were talking about, that depending on whether things are on the same call number or not, it may not be quite as easy to tell. There we go. It's just a little slow, but yeah, so you can see that this particular volume has 26 items. This has 5. Yeah, and Megan was saying that you can add parts.
Yeah, if you click on that very last down arrow and you select parts, it'll show.
Yeah, and then if I show item details, it'll refresh in a minute and show me the parts. But you can also move these and reorder these. So if you want parts to be ordered differently, if you want the barcode to be first, then you can just choose Manage Columns and change which is visible first. So if you want barcode to be first, you can do that, and then move parts up. It's very flexible, although a little bit more cumbersome than dragging. Although some of the screens you can just drag. So it just depends on the screen. This one you can drag, yay. So, if you want it to show up like that, or you want call number first, or location, the shelving location or owning library, you can reorder all that. There's flexibility there. I'm not sure why the part name is showing twice. Was that the issue? I know that someone mentioned that, and it may have been you, at one of the regional roundtables, that was showing twice. So, yeah, we'll see if we can figure out why that is happening. But that's probably just a display issue that can be resolved. Okay, if you want to send a more detailed question later, that's totally great. And we'll do our best to answer it. All right. Anybody else have any thoughts, questions?
I was just going to make a quick note that it doesn't list the part name twice for all of them, so I'm wondering if it's just the way that those were entered.
Okay.
When they were originally cataloged. Like if you change the rows to 50 or 100 and you can see more, if you scroll down, you'll see that there are several that only list like Volume 1, Volume 2, or 2017, Volume 26. It's not all repeating it.
Okay.
So, I mean, it could still be a display issue, but since it's not doing it for all of them, I was wondering if it may just be the way that they were cataloged.
Okay. Well, we can definitely take a look at that. I guess there's lots there, but yeah, we'll take a look at that and see if we can pin down what that is about. But let's look at adding a volume, and I've pulled up a bib record already, and I'm logged in at PDC, so I can actually add something and then take it out. So I won't mess up anybody else's stuff. So I thought we might want to look at some of the differences between adding an item and how that looks. So if I wanted to do this in Zool, I would go to Add Volumes. And I don't do this very often, so you guys correct me if I'm doing something wrong. Just winging it here. Let's see. Oops. Add Holdings is what I click on in the web staff client.
It is important to say, April, as you're doing it this way, that this is how you do it if you're adding a volume, a call number / item for the branch your workstation is currently registered for.
Yes. Now, if I wanted to add for multiple branches at one time, I know I can, well, I think I can do it down here as well, like add something for a different branch.
Yeah, that's how you would select it from there and then click Add Call Number.
Yeah. And you can add additional, but that's clicking it there. I just want people to know that it defaults to if you click add holdings from that point in the website client, it's going to default to thinking you're adding to the branch you're registered for.
True. And if you happen to be, say, logging in at the main branch, but you're not actually adding anything for the main branch, you're adding it for a different branch, then you can actually go in here and change it as well.
Yeah.
So.
Or you can just go from holdings view.
Okay. So if I go back, let's see. Whoops. If I go, gotcha, to holdings view. And go to NC Gov. And I can choose from all my branches here and just check the ones if I want to add to, let's say, everybody or several people. Then I can just do that and
then add holdings. It's the same button.
Oh, do I click on this? Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
You can still click Add Holdings, but once you've checked something in that list, then it trumps where you're registered for.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah. And of course, because I'm compressed here, you can't see the whole name of the library, but it's there. All right, awesome. So if I'm doing this, I can add my call number, and I can batch add if I am making a whole bunch, and apply that, and add my barcode. And of course. Let's see. This will work. All right, and then, obviously you can add parts if you need to. And so anything else, logging committee members, that I should mention before I get to the templates? Of course, I don't have any templates, so that's not going to be helpful. But one of the things that came up that people have discovered is that sometimes item templates won't work in the web client, and it may have something, all the fields are the same, but it may have something to do with the way it's coded. And we haven't pinned down which of the settings might be causing the issue, but apparently if you have one of those mystery, attributes selected in your template, it may not work. So that's just something you probably have to test. And if it doesn't work, then you should just be able to recreate it. So you may want to make notes about what you have in your templates in terms of what the settings are, although I think it will show you, even if it won't save. It'll show you, the changes that your template is supposed to make, but you may find that it won't save for you. And one thing I want to be sure to mention is that because I'm doing multiple items here, they show up all the way at the bottom, which is kind of awkward placement, but so do be sure to scroll down there if you're adding multiple things so that you can see them. And you can see they're all checked by default. So, if I apply a template, then it's going to apply to all of them. And if I want to change that, then I would need to. Cool.
One thing, actually, a couple things might want to mention is,
sure.
First is in the example you're showing, if you could scroll back up to the volumes,
mm-hmm.
That if they want to add multiple items for a single volume, all they have to do is under the box where it says item, change the number from 1, and it'll automatically add in spaces for barcodes.
Right. Thank you, Will. That's good.
I was going to say, and then the other thing is with regard to the items being listed on the very bottom, because we had gotten several questions about adding items that have a different circulating library, but all have the same owning library.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to note that whatever items in the very bottom list are, the box next to them is checked. Those are the ones that you're going to be applying the item attribute templates to. So if for some reason you want each of them to have a different template, you'll have to make sure that if you want, say, 2 of those in that example, you want to go to adult fiction, you would have to check the box in those 2, apply the adult fiction template, then click the store selected button. Then
right.
You would, and if you want the other 2 to go and say adult nonfiction, you would have to check those, apply adult nonfiction, and then you could click save and exit. Just like if they each had a different circulation library, you would have to change the circulating library on each of them as they're checked and then do the store selected.
Right. So if I wanted to change this to, let's say, GHL for those 2, I can do that.
Right.
But I just have to do store selected.
Yep. And just be, obviously make sure that the ones you have checked are the ones that you want to make those changes to.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if my other barcode didn't show up because I already barcoded the first one. But if you...
Oh, I'm sorry, not item number, to the left of barcode where it says items.
Oh, right, because that's the copy number. Sorry, I forgot. No, I don't want that anyway. Oh, yes, items. Thank you. That was my error. Yeah, so it does just fill in. So it'll add as many items and volumes as you want. And then if you realize, oh shoot, I meant to add one for this branch, you just add it here. And there it is. Any change or any questions from anybody about the changes to the way things look? One thing you should be able to do now is go log in to the next database and test your item templates and see whether they will save or not save. And that will at least let you know which ones you'll need to update. I don't think you can update them now and have them show up because we're not, obviously anything that is in the next database that gets changed or whatever, that is not going to affect the production data. So, it's not a case where you can make that change in next and it'll suddenly show up for you. In production, it won't. So, that's why we can mess around and create these demo items because they don't actually.
So April, one thing I'm hoping to play around with is seeing if, because I've in Davidson County our item templates did not work in Webby. They came over from Zool and they did not work. But you can export. I've recreated the item templates in the 3.3 Next environment, and I'm thinking if you export the templates,
they might work.
They might work if you re-import them once we're live in 3.3.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. So you could go in and test, and if they're not working correctly, go ahead and fix them, export them, and then in Next before the actual upgrade on the 28th and 29th, and then once we tell you it's safe to log back in, then you can take those exported templates and anyone who uses them, because remember, templates are username based, so anyone who needs them, you can just import them, and they can import them when they're logged in. And so if you want all your staff, you have multiple catalogers and you want all the catalogers to use the same templates, this is a great way to just tackle that and, go ahead and export them and then import them again.
And you will have to, and I think you'll probably have to.
Thank you, Jenny.
You'll probably have to clear out the templates that currently come over with you, I think. Because I had to do that to recreate them in the Next environment. But
if they have the same name too, that would be a problem.
Yeah, and I'm assuming I'm going to have to do it again once we're back live. Is to clean them out one more time. And import that file I've already exported from Next.
Yeah, so that should. Go ahead.
Sorry, this is Jessica from y'all. I had a question about creating the templates. There had been a mention at the Western Roundtable that at one time, way back when, not particularly associated with this upgrade, that maybe there was advice that when creating item templates, it is more efficient for the database and leads to a problem if your template only touches the field that it absolutely must touch and does not touch any default fields in item attributes that are part of your library's default settings. I was unfamiliar with that, and I'm just wondering, since we'll be recreating templates, if I should check what the defaults are. Does that make a difference? Or can I create my item template with everything that I think it needs?
I'm not aware of any reason why you shouldn't be able to change anything you want to.
Okay.
Obviously, you want to be careful that, it does what you want it to do, or, what's appropriate to happen. You don't want to create like a deposit if you don't actually charge one, or something like that.
Of course.
But yeah, as far as what you can change, I'm not aware of any problems with recording any of the information that you want to be stored in item templates.
So even if it happened to be a default value, but you're setting it to be that way.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you know, if I change normal to normal and save it, that, as far as I'm aware, that's not going to cause any kind of problem.
Okay, that just simplifies
Yeah.
a little bit. It's just a layer of detail to not have to worry about.
Right. I think it basically just grabs, as you know, as far as I'm aware, it just grabs every setting that is in place. And so even if, you know, it defaults to holdable and you've changed that, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. And one thing that, you know, this does kind of help clear up is that, you know, in Zool, there's a whole issue with, you know, if you go and try to create copy templates, that's a whole different thing. I can't remember. I think that's an admin. But anyway, item templates are item templates, and they apply to items in the web client, so that is good. And I'll probably at some later time be updating some of our videos to represent the web client rather than Zool, but that will probably not happen. Well, it'll definitely not happen before the upgrade, but hopefully when I have time to do that, I will get that in place. I hope to do it before library migrations, just so our new libraries will have something to refer to. Any other thoughts or questions about this?
Yeah, April, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, hey, this is Heidi.
Hi.
When we're adding DVDs, we've been adding numbers, and there's a, I think it's called copy number and the item attributes in Zool. And I haven't found a place in this next 3.3 that has something similar. Is there a similar field, or?
It is copy number, yeah. So that's, or the item number, excuse me. That's the thing I changed that Will pointed out. I was changing the item number instead of the items. Now the only thing is, I don't know that you can type in here.
Yeah, it'd be like, 890 or 4 or, right?
Yeah, it won't let you do that. Now you can create a copy note. Is this something that patrons would be referring to, or staff?
Staff. And it wasn't visible in the OPAC, but
right.
It was visible to staff when they're pulling the videos. Right.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you still have the item note option. So I don't know if that's where you had it. So if you're scanning the DVD, you also might want an item alert that would give you that number, and so you can add that. And it just has a lot of options here, but normally you're just going to use like normal checkout or normal check-in, checkout.
Will we be able to add our own alert note? Because it looks like there's just a set note now that you can pick.
That's not the alert note. That's just when it shows up. So the type determines when the note shows up.
But it seems like somebody was saying that when they tried to type in an alert message, it wasn't letting them, or.
No, I mean, you can type in the message field itself. You can't type in here.
Okay. Maybe
so that may have been just a misunderstanding of where you're typing.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. And I know there was a question at the roundtables about copy alerts and notes from Zool. When we upgraded to 3.1, this is new code for the web client. And so in order for those copy alerts and copy notes to show up in the web client for circulators, they have to be added in the web client. So we talked about that at the time of the upgrade, but that information may have been lost or obscured in the intervening time. So you may want to do some reporting on your items to see what alerts are applied and how they're applied, because only these item alerts that are applied in the web client are going to show up for circulators when they're checking items in or out. So that is something that is, important to keep in mind. And that was just sort of an issue, I guess, with the transition and the fact that we were still cataloging in the Zool client. So if you find that, someone is reporting to you that this is supposed to have a pop-up copy alert, item alert, and you look in Zool and there it is, that's not where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be here. And anything added here does not show up in Zool. So I'm just looking at chat.
Sorry, I was just going to make a comment about the alerts. I actually, now this may be one of those cases where it works for some libraries and it doesn't work for others, like we were having with the item attributes templates. But I tested some items that I knew had alert messages on them that were placed on them in Zool. And when I checked them in and checked them out in the 3.3 client, the alert messages popped up still.
And they were added in Zool?
Mm-hmm. They were added in Zool, and then they came up when I looked at their records in the web client. They were listed under normal check-in and normal check-out.
Okay. Well, so when we upgraded to 3.1, Mobius brought those messages over. So it depends, I guess, on maybe when it was added.
Okay.
Anyway, this is something just to obviously once we upgrade, there won't be other options. But if you find that it's not showing up, just be sure to add it here in the meantime. I know we're getting close to time, so I don't want to cut short the possibility of questions. So if you all have questions, feel free to ask them. I did want to show you real quick the MARC template. The cataloging committee has worked on these and waited patiently for us to get them loaded into production. And it's a complex coding situation, and so there was quite a bit of delay. And finally, Benjamin was able to work on it for us and got these entered. We still have a couple of tweaks to make to them, but they are here, and so we're very excited by that because it is a time saver if you have to create a record from scratch. And I will shortly have the templates that are showing up in the knowledge book updated to match. So like I said, we have a couple of tweaks, and then we'll let you know that it's as far as we know good, unless somebody reports something new. But this is a nice time saver. And one thing, I'm jumping around a little bit, but since we're here, one thing that was discussed at the roundtables was that if you are a BIB cataloger and you're validating a record for authorities, because we did, as you know, from our frost, we did that's now done. We did have new authorities imported, and they were still loading as of the beginning of this week, but are probably about done if they're not finished. And so if you want to validate a link, then you click on just one of these little chains, and of course there's no authority record, so I get this nice pop-up. But if you click on one of those and then hit validate, when you actually have a record here, then it should validate for you. But you do have to click on that little blue link first. So, and if you don't feel comfortable validating, don't fret about it. We are going to have roundtables in the spring to talk more about the process of our regular authorities work that we're contracted with Marchive to do, and what you as catalogers can do, what you need to do, and so how you need to do it. So that is coming, and so nobody needs to worry too much about it now. But if you feel comfortable and you want to do that, then those are the steps required. All right. Cataloging committee, is there more that we should show while we have these up? Let's see. Could I demonstrate a merge? Yeah, let me go to my bucket. All right, and I'm going to pull this over a little bit so we have a bigger view. All right, so let's say we're going, we've checked these and made sure that they're appropriate to merge. We're going to skip all that part, but since we're in the next database, we can go ahead and do that and assume that we've already checked and made sure, and these are good to go. So I'm checking both of them, and I choose Merge Selected Records. So it's going to pop up with the two records side by side. I have not tried merging in the web client, so I'm assuming there's still the same issue with if you have more than, say, 3 records, it gets pretty difficult to try to see them all at one time. So you may still want to merge smaller subsets before you try to do all of them.
What's really useful is if you do have a bunch and you see the option you have choose which record you want to use as the lead, it automatically moves that one to the front, to the far left.
Oh, so, nice.
So if the one you really like is like the last one in a list of 5, as soon
yeah.
as you use this lead record, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it moves it to the beginning.
Yeah, so let's swap those two.
And then you see you have your option. You can edit it in that view, or you can if you click edit using full editor, it opens up a second pop-up that lets you edit the record a little more fully.
Okay, cool.
It's easier to see in the scroll.
Gotcha. Okay, nice. And then you can go to flat text editor if you want to. Oh, that's really cool. I like that. Like I said, I haven't played with this, so this is nice.
We had a question at the Western Roundtable about why there's a merge profile.
Yes.
Associated.
And I have not had a chance to look at that, but so there are, it looks like the profiles that it's bringing up are profiles that are in the batch importer.
Yes.
And so I need to look at those and see what the differences are, and we can, we'll, as a committee, we'll talk and figure out what the recommendation is. So, but that was a good question, because this merge profile is different. And
it seems to work fine with just nothing selected.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my initial gut inclination is to not mess with those if you're doing.
Just not select one.
Yeah, if you're doing manual merging, because you're going to be editing, you're choosing a lead record anyways, and so you can make sure it looks the way you want it anyways.
Right. Because manually merge doesn't actually make a lot of sense anyway.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah, get those options removed if they're not going to be.
Yeah.
Or at very clear instruction to always ignore them.
Yeah, just leave it blank. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, that's my gut reaction when you're doing manual merging this way.
Right. So I'll have to research and see why, if I can figure out why that was added. I'm sure there's a use case, and so I'll do some research. But that's a good recommendation, just to leave it blank, because it's in most cases, I'm not sure why you would want to apply a merge profile. As you say, you're going to make manual edits, and this would, choosing one of those would make a lot of changes. It's possible we might be able to utilize that in some useful way in future, but for now, leave it blank. All right. Go ahead.
One other thing, if you go back, if you cancel out of that, April, and look at the menu, the record bucket menu, something I know it's been pointed out by people under the actions menu, the option to remove from bucket and to delete from catalog are right next to each other, and they're very similar terminology, but they're very different things.
They are.
So it is important to be very conscious when you're removing things from your record bucket, because you could possibly delete them from the catalog. Now it will, if you do choose delete, it should ask you, are you sure you want to do this? So there is that extra, backup step, but it's super important to pay attention to that, because they look very similar in as far as
the lines are exactly the same length. Yeah, that's a really unfortunate placement.
And they're right next to each other. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, we may be able to put in a bug request to have those separated.
I think that's a request a lot of people, like Evergreen, community wide, is asking for.
Yeah, so the bug request may already exist, as a wish list. So I'll check into that. All right. Yeah, so let's just go ahead. We can take another look, and so we'll pick one to use as the lead record and merge, and it works the same. I guess the only thing that shows up differently is that merge profile and the display, which is much nicer. So I do like that better. Does anybody know what the toggle holdings display does?
I think it might let you see what items are on the record, right?
Yeah, if you scroll down to the bottom of the screen, it shows you the volumes and item.
Cool.
Let's see.
Oh, nice.
Click again.
Yeah. Sorry, there's probably lag on Join Me, but I did, so I got. Nice. Well, that's handy, because otherwise, in Zool, it obscures your record. So, in this way, it actually lets you do stuff. That's nice. All right, and you can also remove from consideration, which is useful. Cool. Well, let's just merge and see what happens. And of course, you still, as far as I'm aware, do not have an unmerge, so that's one you want to be careful with. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. Please do keep submitting questions that you have, either to the cataloging committee email address, or you can send it to me via email or put in a help ticket. Or if you're on the Upgrade Basecamp, you can submit it there, or have your staff member at your library who is on that Upgrade Basecamp to submit it for you. But just some way, get it to us, and we will do our best to find answers for you. And then we will be announcing a date for our follow-up. I'm shooting for the first week in November, and so just working out when cataloging committee members are available to join us and help with the questions that you all have. So we look forward to talking with you then, and I'll post that out on the CAT listserv, and it'll be on the various media that we have. So thanks, you guys. Talk to you again soon.